The Milwaukee Sharks were often seen as a big mistake in NFL history, much like the Dallas Texans back in 1952. In their 3 seasons in the NFL, the Sharks managed to win only 2 games, both in their first season. This led to a new record for consecutive seasons without a win. But the struggles on the field were not the only reason people in Milwaukee did not connect with the new team. Milwaukee already had its own team, the Green Bay Packers. There wasn't much interest for an expansion team in the area. A new head coach, the 4th one, and a new general manager were trying to make some changes during the off-season. Jim Carlson was preparing for his 4 p.m. newscast at the local ABC TV station. He had become a well-known face and voice in Milwaukee over the past 14 years. Besides anchoring the news, the station turned to him for important stories that disrupted regular programming. Jim was at the peak of his career and had 3 local Emmy Awards to prove it. He took pride in being a broadcaster. From the moment he received a small radio as a child hidden under his pillow to catch distant AM stations, he knew he wanted to be on the air. Originally from Southern California, he began his radio career while pursuing a bachelor's degree in journalism at USC. He started by announcing classical music on KUSC-FM, and during his last year of college and for a year after, he worked as a news, weather, and traffic reporter for different local stations. Although he loved California and might have stayed forever, everything changed on September 11, 2001. That day, while reporting traffic and weather for several stations, Jim and his colleagues watched the news as reports of the plane striking the World Trade Center came in. Soon, all the stations wanted to provide special coverage. Even music stations that usually did not broadcast news switched to all news, all the time. He worked late that evening and returned to the studio early the next morning. After his shift on Thursday, Jim decided to enlist in the U.S. Army. After serving 4 years, which included time in Germany and a tour in Afghanistan, he moved to the reserves and chose to pursue a master's degree. While he was stationed overseas, his father, who worked as a brewmaster for a national brewery, was transferred to the home brewery in Milwaukee. So once Jim completed his active duty, he enrolled in the graduate journalism program at Marquette. He soon realized that he liked Milwaukee. He also found that he loved a certain education major named Linda McKenzie. Before long, they became Mr. and Mrs. Carlson. After finishing his graduate degree, Jim got his first TV job in Milwaukee, reporting on City Hall, police headquarters, and the downtown courthouse. 2 years later, he was an anchor on the city's highest-rated local news show. It is hard to forget moments when a news announcer would say, "We interrupt this program." There was John Charles Daly reporting on CBS Radio about the attack on Pearl Harbor, Walter Cronkite announcing the president had been shot in Dallas, and Charles Gibson describing the plane crashing into the tower. These moments are important parts of America's history that people will remember. Most days, though, the news is pretty normal. When we hear it, we may not always see how it could impact our lives. When Jim passed the news to his sports reporter on April 12th, he had no idea that he would soon be part of a significant story. It seems the rumors about a Sharks trade with the Carolina Panthers for Heisman Trophy winner Mark Lavaliere are true. Now, with more on this and all the sports news today, here's Tom Delano. Tom. Afterward, the story picks up with Jim walking back to the Madison Hotel from Morrison's after realizing Linda was not returning from the ladies' room and had instead slipped out the back door with Mark Lavaliere. Jim walked to the Madison Hotel, looking a bit lost. The elevator ride to the top floor felt incredibly long. Then he trudged down the hall to their room, which was supposed to be a nice corner suite with a view of the city. "I'm lucky 20 floors up, and I have one of the few rooms with a sliding glass door and a balcony," Jim thought. "I could just go outside, but knowing my luck tonight, I would end up worse off." Would Linda and that guy even visit me if I got hurt? Jim packed his shaving kit and clothes back into his suitcase. Linda had left an expensive set of lingerie on the bed. He thought about throwing it away, but realized that it wasn't fair to the maids. Instead, he left a note for them, saying the lingerie was brand new and anyone could take it. He decided to leave Linda's suitcase in the room. He didn't care about her things. He thought, just like Linda doesn't care about me. The pain of embarrassment and betrayal from Linda, with help from Dee and their so-called friends, hurt him deeply. The worst part for Jim was feeling so weak, sad, and alone. After 4 years in the Army and 18 years as a broadcaster, he thought he had seen everything. He had witnessed many events, but as a reporter, he always stayed detached. He would report on tragedies while keeping his feelings out of it. Now, he was in the middle of his own story, and it was an uncomfortable place to be. For almost 15 years, it had always been Jim and Linda's story. Tonight, he was on the outside, watching as Linda wrote her own story without him. This suite at the Madison cost him quite a bit, but he thought it would be worth it. Linda had been tense and distant for most of the month. She often seemed angry and blamed Jim for everything. Recently, though, Linda showed signs of happiness and looked forward to their weekend trip. Jim hoped they would reconnect after a tough February. Their 15th anniversary was coming in June, and he had planned a dream trip to Hawaii. He was excited to share the surprise with Linda during their getaway. Now, sitting on the king bed they were supposed to share, he wondered if she would come back to the room tomorrow or maybe return tonight, asking for forgiveness. He thought, should I stay or leave? Suddenly, he realized he no longer had to worry about what Linda wanted or needed. Her needs weren't his concern tonight, and maybe they wouldn't be ever again. Wow, this is rough. Even in Afghanistan during dangerous times, I stayed calm and knew what to do. Tonight, though, I have no plan and no training to guide me. I could go home and get my gun and find that guy's house. I bet we have his address and gate code saved at the studio. But then what? If that guy took one scary step towards me, I would have to defend myself. I could leave the gun at home and face him directly. I've learned some moves from the Army, but he is much bigger than me, and that could be a real problem. It'd be in his space, and he might have a weapon. Even if I got just a few bruises or a broken nose, losing to him wouldn't win me any sympathy from Linda. Winning or losing wouldn't change how she sees me. I would still be less in her eyes. I once covered a story about online voodoo curses. If I could, I'd put one on that guy and on Linda, too. Maybe I'd even get one for Dee if they had a special deal. In the end, it wasn't a hard choice. Jim couldn't do anything at the Madison, so he made a quick list of things to take care of, grabbed his bag, and decided to head home. As he started his SUV, the oldies station was playing loudly. Earlier, Jim and Linda had enjoyed singing along to their favorite songs. Now he found it hard to listen to the happy music and almost changed the station to the news when a classic song by Roxette played. He had to pull over for a moment because the pain in his heart was too much. He didn't think he was having a heart attack, but it felt like his heart was breaking. People usually saw Jim as a strong guy, but at that moment, he just wanted to cry. He felt sad and lost, but the tears wouldn't come. When he finally drove into his neighborhood, Jim thought about his kids. Emma was 14 and just started high school. Tommy was 12 and in middle school. It was strange to think about them, because he wasn't sure if Linda was thinking about them at all. The kids were spending the weekend with Jim's parents, and they had planned to meet at church on Sunday morning and then have breakfast together afterward. Jim felt relieved that his kids wouldn't have to see the drama when, or if, Linda came back home. Right after Linda left with that guy, Dee tried to make things better, saying Linda would be back on Saturday, so Jim could win her back. She insisted this was just a one-time deal. Just one night out of your whole lives, she said. Jim was expected to simply accept what happened, forgive Linda, overlook the actions of her and their so-called friends, and pretend it never occurred. Jim knew he couldn't just move on like Dee and Linda thought he would. There was no way he could make peace with what they did to him. Maybe after spending a fortune on therapy, he could find a way to forgive Linda, but he would never forget what she did. But as Jim pondered, he realized the real issue was not whether he could forget that night. The more important question was whether Linda could. She might say, "I'm sorry for hurting you over and over," but when they were close at night, who would she really think about? Would she accidentally call out Mark's name during an intimate moment? After falling asleep, would she dream about him instead of Jim? Jim understood this didn't just involve one night in their marriage. Some moments are significant and change everything. For him, tonight was a turning point, the night when everything unraveled. His life would never return to normal, no matter how much Linda tried to explain it away. If Linda was allowed to move on, as if nothing happened, it would only lead to problems in their marriage, even if they stayed together. Jim thought to himself, Linda and Dee believe this is all acceptable because Mark is a famous football player, and that makes this a special moment for Linda. She may take me for granted because I was an ordinary guy when we first met. While my status has grown over time, I would be recognized more in this city than Mark, who isn't even doing well in his career lately. All the money they paid him hasn't amounted to much, and he missed games because of a small injury. He may have a big trophy, but I have 3 Emmy Awards. Just because he's famous doesn't mean Linda should be starstruck. My Uncle Frank played for the 49ers and Packers. He was in the league, too. Uncle Frank always had lots of famous players over whenever he hosted a barbecue during the off-season. Linda had met many of these players who wore big Super Bowl rings, and she never freaked out like this. There had to be a deeper reason behind this embarrassment, something beyond looks or muscles. Was she interested in something he didn't understand? Jim guessed they had probably finished the first round of the night, and he wondered what would come next. Linda had never acted that way with him, but he couldn't shake the thought that she might be doing something different tonight. Just then, he received a FaceTime call from an unknown number. Although he usually wouldn't answer, he had a feeling about where it was from. He picked up and hit record. It was Lavalier shouting, "Hey there!" In the background, Jim could hear Linda saying, "Please don't call him that." Lavalier went on, "Your wife is amazing, and I'm really enjoying this time with her. Look at her." Linda's voice came through again. "Jim, I can't wait to get home and share some new things we can try. I knew this would be exciting for both of us." "It's only one night, and he'll be back tomorrow, and you can have me right away." The call ended with some more teasing remarks from Lavalier and something Jim couldn't quite catch from Linda. He started to express his anger, but the connection dropped. If he could feel his blood boiling, it would be at its highest point right now. "One night," Jim shouted at his phone, even though the call was over. "Forget you, Linda and Lavalier, and everyone else involved. This supposed one night is going to turn my life into a nightmare. This needs to end now, and Linda needs to get her mind back to reality. I'm going to make sure she understands what one night means for us starting right now." Jim tried calling Linda back, but it went straight to voicemail. However, he had a plan. A few months earlier, he had set up an emergency app on both of their phones and made himself an emergency contact on Linda's device. Even if her phone is off or silent, calling her and pressing the emergency call button would make her phone light up with a loud noise like a smoke alarm. The only way to stop the sound is to answer the call or remove the battery. He set up the emergency call, and when Lavalier picked up, Jim shouted, "Put my wife on the phone now." "She can't talk right now, Ace. She's busy," came the reply with a chuckle. The emergency app also had a feature that could send out an even louder sound to help find someone if they were trapped. Jim activated it. "Stop! Stop!" he heard. "Hand the phone to her." "Hi, Jim. Are you Linda Mackenzie Carlson?" "You know I am." "Do you have a reservation for the penthouse suite at the Madison Hotel tonight?" "Yes, but..." "Then why aren't you there now?" Jim didn't wait for Linda to respond. "Do you live at 111942 Northwood Lane?" "Of course." "Then why aren't you at 111942 Northwood Lane?" "You know why, Jim. It's just a pause, the best pause I've ever had, but I'll be back tomorrow and we'll have our future together." "It doesn't sound like I want to spend my life with you right now." "Don't say that, Jim. Stop acting like it, and I'll stop saying it. Remember, I'm a reporter. I seek the truth, and right now, you aren't making it easy for me to trust you. Oh, you'll be fine tomorrow when I come home. Mark says I have nothing to worry about. You and I are meant to be together forever. Why aren't we together now? Honey, you know why. Don't ever call me anything but Jim until I say otherwise. Fair is fair. I'll only call you Linda from now on, except for using other names that describe how I feel about this situation. That's not very kind. Jim could hear the tremble in her voice. Let's not talk about kindness, okay? Do you understand the harm you've done to our marriage and to me? I don't think we can fix this. I'm sorry this is hard for you, Jim. I love you, you know that. Do I? It's tough to see that tonight, and you say you're sorry it's bothering me. But are you really sorry for leaving? In light of what has happened, that is the most arrogant thing I have ever heard from you. I can't trust what you say after everything that has gone on. And honestly, I don't care if this truth hurts your feelings. Yes, I love you, Jim. I will make it up to you both at home and outside, starting tomorrow. In time, you will see how this will bring something new to our marriage. Well, we won't be sharing a bed when you come back until we get your test results. If anything comes back positive or you end up pregnant from your weekend, that will surely change things for us. I will need you to help me find my footing tomorrow. That's not going to happen until I see those test results, and only if they come back negative. And are you being careful? Jim, well, we didn't think so. Take a shower and clean yourself up before you come back home, or I won't let you in. I just don't want any trace of what happened out there in my house. And you will need to sign the agreement before coming inside. What? An agreement? What's that? As soon as I got home, I called Dan, the lawyer we know. I will make sure there are consequences for what you and he thought was okay. He will pay dearly for what he did, and you will too. It's going to rain tomorrow, so Dan is free to meet for breakfast to sort everything out. But one thing is certain, you will be signing an agreement. If we get back together, and if that's pretty big right now, if you ever pull something like this again, it will be in effect. If you make contact with him, it will take effect. If you ever call me by another name while we are together, just once, even years from now, it will be enforced. What do you mean by enforced, Jim? Dan and I will work out the details, but basically it means filing for divorce, splitting our belongings, I get full custody of the kids, and you go back to your maiden name. We might add more, but that's the main idea. What if I don't sign? I'm glad you asked. That would make my choice much easier. If you don't agree to this post-nuptial agreement, my lawyer will deliver divorce papers to you at your school soon. Mark believes you will have to take me back. If we get divorced, it will hurt you financially, and the court would give me full custody of Emma and Tommy. You really don't have any proof that anything happened, other than the fact that I left with Mark. Don't be so confident. I'm sure there are recordings of your actions at Morrison's online. I recorded your FaceTime call. By the time we reach court, I will have enough evidence to show you as an unfit mother in Wisconsin. You really dislike me, don't you? This isn't how it was supposed to unfold. You're right. This isn't how tonight should have gone, finally. Something you said makes sense. Dislike? You showed me your true feelings clearly tonight. You thought this would be okay with me, which shows you don't truly know me. I know you. I love you. That's a strange way to show it. Just a few hours ago, I could honestly say I loved you deeply, but you destroyed that love completely. You treated it poorly, like it meant nothing. Has not my boyfriend. Has he been with you in inappropriate ways? I think my point stands. Right now, I don't love you, I don't respect you, and I really don't care about you. That's how I can deal with what you did tonight. I don't care about you, Linda. You showed me that you don't care about me either. Maybe what you did was for him, or because you value your own needs over anyone else's, even Emma or Tommy. I won't care about you again. I'm so sorry. I already asked you not to call me by any endearing names, understand? Is he beside you listening to this? No. He fell asleep after his third drink. Okay. From now on, I'm in control, and am going to guide you whether you want it or not. Follow my lead closely, and maybe we can save this marriage, at least for Emma and Tommy's sake. I've already set up a ride with Yellow Cab. I have the address and gate code for my ex. How do you know where he lives, Jim? He keeps his life very private. He said only you and I and our close friends would know about tonight. I have connections. Those connections know where my ex lives, and now I do too. In 15 minutes, a cab will arrive at his home. Be on the porch, dressed and ready. I don't want the driver to honk and wake him or the neighbors. Yellow cab will call me as soon as you get picked up, so I'll know when to expect you. You should be home in about 45 minutes after you get into the taxi. I'll be awake, but I won't want to talk until tomorrow after I've met with my lawyer. Get back here, and there's a small chance we can fix things. If you don't show up, you'll make all my choices for me. Jim's first choice will be to share an upsetting video call. Your family will definitely have something to discuss over breakfast tomorrow. I already have a list of people to send it to. Your extended family, the school principal, even the whole school board. If I send it out tonight, the pastor could mention it in his Sunday sermon, not the video itself, but the ideas of honor, truthfulness, and betrayal. There are weeks of topics right there. Just to show you I'm serious, the video is all queued up. If you make it home, you can try to convince me not to send it. Just so you know, the kids are staying with my parents tonight, and we'll all meet at church on Sunday. My parents will take them back after church to get them ready for school on Monday. My dad has also gotten an emergency order to keep you away for him. It helps to know a retired judge. Essentially, you won't be near our children at their grandparents' house unless I am with you. My kids! You should have thought about them last night. It seems the 3 who thought you loved them were forgotten. Maybe you just don't care. Or have you decided we're in the way of your new life? Linda began to cry. Don't wake him up, get dressed, and be ready on the front porch now. Jim hung up. That went well, he thought. At least she listened. I hope she really listened. About 30 minutes later, Jim got a call from the yellow cab dispatcher. Did my wife get picked up? I'm sorry, Mr. Carlson. Our driver pulled up to the porch. There was a fancy car in the driveway, so we knew we were at the right house. After waiting for a few minutes, the driver honked the horn a couple of times, then waited a bit longer and gave one long beep. He waited some more, but she never came out. I'm sorry. There's no charge. I wish this had worked out for both of you, Jim said as he hung up the phone, feeling sad and defeated. I thought I had a chance to bring her back, to win her heart again. What happened? I thought she wanted to come home, especially since that was important for any chance of fixing things. Did her tears and apologies mean anything, or was it just to calm me down while she went off with someone else? Nobody forced her to leave with him. She made that choice herself, with a little encouragement from Dee. Jim considered his next steps. Part of him wanted to lash out, to destroy family photos, burn Linda's wedding dress, and throw her belongings out on the lawn. But he knew that wouldn't reflect well on him. If he acted that way, he would just be seen as the bad guy. While it would feel good to release his anger, he couldn't shake off the thought of how the news would report it. Local man loses control and wreaks havoc at home. By morning, Jim was exhausted from sleepless nights filled with worry and anger. He changed out of his suit from the night before, took a shower, and then headed to a breakfast spot to meet his friend and lawyer, Dan. Before he left, he used Linda's laptop to send a video to her parents with a brief message. Hi, Mom and Dad. This was supposed to be a special night for Jim, but I decided to take a different path. Enjoy the video. After breakfast, he planned to send it to others too. Over Swedish pancakes and coffee, Jim and Dan worked on divorce papers that could be sent out whenever Jim decided. Just in case there was a chance to save the marriage, they also discussed a post-nup agreement. It was a tough conversation. Since the night before, Jim had been talking to himself to figure out what Linda's actions meant. Though he didn't cry, he was getting emotional as he shared his troubles with Dan. On the way home, his phone buzzed with calls and texts from friends and Linda's parents. As soon as he drove into the driveway, he called his wife's parents back. He told them about the video clip and gave a quick summary of what happened the night before, including the try to send her home by taxi. Her mother cried a lot during the call, but her father listened to everything and got very upset with his only daughter. After that call, Jim sent the video to everyone else on his list. He sat at the kitchen table and waited. It was 10:30 in the morning and Linda was still not home. From 10:30 to 11:30 he felt worried. By 11:30 he felt angry. Around 12:45, Jim got a short message from Linda. It told him to check his email. The email said, My dearest Jim, I heard the taxi arrive last night. I was ready and had one foot out the door. Then I realized I was not finished with my adventure. I will be home late this afternoon. It will be the same old me coming through the door. I promise. Nothing will have really changed. Remember that I love you and only you. I have enjoyed my once-in-a-lifetime fantasy. It met all of my hopes and more. I am so glad I did this for myself. Mark has been a kind man. The time has been special, but I must leave him today. Let you welcome me back as soon as I return. I know you may be a bit upset. You probably have questions about how this happened. I will answer the best I can without trying to hurt you. I was very surprised when Mark came up to me at the bar. He is well-known and tall and handsome. He just took charge on the dance floor. I do not know what more to say. From that first dance, I wanted to be with Mark. Again, I cannot explain it all to you, but I wanted him and he wanted me. It was the best time I have ever had. But there is no true love with him. That is only for you. I cannot wait to go back to my life with you and our family. Tonight, you can start by welcoming me back fully. In a few days, this will just seem like a small problem for us. Thank you for letting me enjoy this special time. I will make it up to you by sharing what I have learned from Mark. From now on, no part of me will be off limits to you. Now I feel bad that I always said no to some things you asked, but Mark showed me how they can be fun. I am looking forward to finding out if it is as good when you and I try it. Do not be mad or sad that you were not the first. Just enjoy it. This will all be worth it, I promise. Also, I made some changes down there now. I know you asked me a few times, and I always said no. Mark prefers a certain look for his partners, and I decided to embrace that. I wish I had done this sooner. I believe he will appreciate the change. Mark has finished his time with me, and I will be dressed and ready to return to you later today after a late lunch. I will wear my blue dress, and I know you will be happy to see it again. Mark is going to drive me home in his fancy car. I'm excited for you to meet him. He is genuinely a kind person, unlike what you might think. I truly look forward to coming home this afternoon and being with you again. See you soon. Your loving wife, Linda. What a terrible situation, Jim shouted. Just a bump in the road? I'm glad I did this for myself. Sure, she didn't listen to a word I said last night. If I take her back, she will always remember this amazing night he'll have to compete with. When she goes shopping, will I worry she is sneaking off to see him? Will I feel anxious every day driving home from work, waiting to see that flashy car in the driveway? Or worse, a note on the kitchen table that says she had to do something? How many counseling sessions will it take to build trust again? How many professionals will I be paying for their kids' education? Maybe it's simple Linda got caught up in the excitement of being with a football player. But that can't be the only reason for all this. I'm not a nobody. I'm one of the top newscasters in town. I was here before he even finished school and will be long after he has moved on. Unless he convinces her to stay with him until Sunday, my tough times start later today. Linda will likely come home feeling high from the thrill, and I will have to help her settle back to reality, a reality neither of us will enjoy. Jim quickly wrote a response to Linda. Linda, I am sitting at the kitchen table in the house we have shared for 14 years. When I finally returned here last night, my first thought was to take revenge on you, destroy your wedding dress, throw your jewelry away, cut you out of family photos, and break anything else you cherish. Just like you have destroyed everything important to me. But I realized that even burning this place down wouldn't change how I feel about you. When you come back, everything will look normal. But appearances can be misleading. Inside, this place is in ruins and nothing is as it seems. On the outside, I seem calm and composed. Inside, I am filled with anger toward you and that other person, but mostly toward you. I did not lose you to him. You lost yourself. It was not a fair situation. You, he, and our so-called friends worked against me. Your little trick of going to the bathroom and sneaking out was a cowardly move. Instead of facing me and giving me a real chance to talk, you just left. You might think you were protecting me from getting hurt, but I've looked into him. He has never been in the military. He has never seen real fighting. I have. From what you've told me, you plan to come back today and say things like, I'm back, and nothing's changed, and expect me to take you back. That won't happen tonight, or probably ever. I won't share a bed with you until you show me a clean STD test and an HIV test in a few months. You believe he is safe, but it only takes one person to pass something that spreads to someone else. I am grounded in reality, and that's how it is here. Since we first met, I never thought I would need to watch my back with you. Now I will be on guard every day from now on. You might say everything is back to normal, but it will never be what it once was for us. You can call it normal if you want, but you will be kidding yourself. Just a few days ago, I had a loving wife. Now, I have a wife who seems deceitful, afraid, untrustworthy, and someone I cannot respect. That won't just change and go back to how we were, whatever normal means. I have felt more alone in the last few hours than ever before now. It's your turn to feel how lonely you truly are. We may be in the same space, but you will be by yourself. I will stay for the sake of the kids for now, and they will receive all my love. You will only get the version of me that smiles on the outside, the one everyone sees on the news. The real me feels like it faded away last night. You had a night of dancing with a fairy tale prince. I spent the time on a wild roller coaster. For the first time, we share very different memories of the same night. Whether we stay together or separate, my life will no longer reflect yours. Some relationship, right? Do not doubt how serious I am or test my limits, and do not brush off what you have done. This is a serious issue. Don't ever mention his name or how great your time was last night. I know what happened. I have the video. You shared all the details in your email and made it clear what you did. I don't care if he's bigger than me. He's just a bigger problem than I imagined. That's all I need to know. This isn't just a small bump in our road, it's a big turn, and I doubt we will walk the same path anymore. I'm sending you an attachment, though I'm not sure you care. It's a plan for a trip I organized for us in June, celebrating our 15th anniversary. First-class flights and top-notch places on 3 islands in Hawaii, a dream vacation. I worked hard on this for weeks, excited to share it with you this weekend. I can create special experiences, too. Just a bit ago, I canceled everything. Weeks of hope and effort wasted. If we are still together by June, he'll take you to Wendy's for our anniversary dinner. When you come back, you'll need to knock or ring the doorbell. Your keys don't work anymore. He'll be waiting. Jim didn't hear back from Linda. 1 o'clock came and went, as did 2 and 3 p.m. Just like last night, he thought. He almost expected a text saying that someone else wanted her to stay another night and would drop her off later. If that happened, he would contact Dan to have Linda served with divorce papers at her school on Monday. At 3:30, his phone rang. He thought it might be Linda, but it was Bob Adams, the weekend news producer at his station. Hey, Jim, sorry to bother you on a Saturday, but we're short an anchor for the 6 p.m. news. Ruth Ann's mother is in the hospital and it's serious. Steve was supposed to cover for her, but he hurt his back. Can you help us out? Sure, Bob, no problem. I don't have plans for tonight. See you at the station. Jim felt relieved. He would rather be at work than alone at home. He thought about letting Linda sit on the porch until he got back since her key didn't work anymore. Jim drove to the station, reviewed the top stories, worked out a plan with the sports guy, and then went to makeup. He made a few edits on his stories for the teleprompter. At 5:15, he received a brief text from Linda. Leaving soon and I love you. Jim didn't reply. At 6 p.m., the intro started, and 15 seconds later, Jim was on air. Good evening. I'm Jim Carlson, filling in for Ruth Ann Walker, and our top story tonight is... He covered world news, national news, local news, gave a quick weather update, teased sports coming up, and then went to the first commercial break. They returned with more news, sports, and a human interest piece before heading into the second break. After that, Jim's co-anchor previewed the weather and presented a recorded interview with a candidate for Congress. Finally, they moved to the complete weather report before the third commercial break. After that break, a few local stories were shared, followed by a recap of the top stories of the day. The last break at 8 minutes before the hour was always short. While 2 30-second commercials, a public service announcement, and a promo for network programs aired, Bob, the producer, spoke to Jim through the earpiece. Jim, we have breaking news on the prompter. Mark Lavalier of the Sharks was involved in a car accident about 25 minutes ago. There are other injuries, too. We're cutting the break short and going to you, Interpontup 1. And, just into eyewitness news, a high-speed accident has taken the life of tight end Mark Lavalier of the Sharks and 2 others. Lavalier was reported dead at the scene. The passenger in his car is a 39-year-old teacher and mother of 2, who was airlifted to the hospital in critical condition. Reports suggest Lavalier and the woman were seen together at a club on Friday night. Police believe he was driving her home when the crash happened. According to police, Lavalier's car was going over 90 miles an hour on North Lake Drive when he ran a red light and struck another vehicle already in the intersection. The driver of that car and one passenger were also killed, and it is not yet known if there were others. We have video of emergency crews working on Lavalier's car sent to us by a viewer. We will provide more details as they come in. Stay tuned to Eyewitness News for updates throughout the evening and on our 11 o'clock report. Once again, Heisman Trophy winner and Sharks tight end DeMarcus Mark Lavalier is dead after a crash that also took the lives of 2 people in another car and left Lavalier's female companion critically injured. For all of us at Eyewitness News, I'm Jim Carlson. Good night. And it's a hard winter's day. I dream away. It must have been love, but it's over now. It must have been good, but I lost it somehow. According to witnesses, Lavalier's black Lamborghini was going over 90 miles an hour on North Lake Drive when he ran a red light and collided with a smaller car that was already in the intersection. The driver of that car and one passenger died. We are still checking if there were any other people inside. The police are looking into whether drugs or alcohol played a role in the crash. A viewer sent us a video of emergency crews using special equipment to get Lavalier out of his car. We will share more details as they come in. Stay tuned to Eyewitness News for updates throughout the evening and during our 11 o'clock report. Again, Heisman Trophy winner and Sharks tight end DeMarcus Mark Lavalier has died after a high-speed crash that also killed another driver and a passenger and seriously injured Lavalier's female friend. For all of us at Eyewitness News, I'm Jim Carlson. Good night. Bob, the director, immediately spoke up on the earpiece. Jim, did you make up some of that story? The news director is going to be very unhappy with us. I think Fred will be pleased when we win a local Emmy and maybe an AP award too. Trust me, that story was spot on. I checked it with my source, me. One of the production assistants spoke to Jim in his ear. Jim, Deputy Police Chief Harding is here to see you. He says he can give you a ride. Jim walked off the set and saw Warren Harding waiting for him. Jim, I've got bad news for you, but since I heard your newscast, I know you at least know part of what happened, right? I guess Linda went to Memorial? Can you give me a lift? That's why I'm here. I'll explain on the way. Warren and Jim had known each other for a long time, dating back to when Jim covered the police beat and Warren had just become a detective. As they drove with lights flashing, Jim shared what he knew about Linda's situation. She was with Lavalier. I spoke to her late last night and she agreed to come home, but it seems her plans changed. Do you have any more details? It looks like Lavalier was going over 90. He blew through a red light and struck a Kia, causing the death of a pregnant woman and her 3-year-old daughter. Linda is still in the operating room now. Last I heard from the hospital about 20 minutes ago, it's still uncertain. I do know from speaking with Linda that both she and Lavalier had used drugs, and there might be some in what's left of his car. Warren dropped Jim off at the front entrance to the hospital. Jim thanked Harding for his help. Harding replied, "If there's anything I or the department can do, just let me know, Jim." At the hospital, Jim called his parents and asked them to watch the kids for a few days. Since the kids would be asleep by the time he got there, Jim promised to visit in the morning before they left for church to explain things about their mother. He asked his mom and dad not to watch the news until after Emma and Tim were in bed. Then, he called Linda's parents. They had just heard Jim's news report and were scared that it was Linda he was talking about. He shared everything he knew so far. They would arrive at the hospital soon. The night before, Jim felt conflicted about not clearing out all of Linda's things. He worried that he had been too easy on her by even considering taking her back, though there would be conditions. In reality, it wouldn't have worked out. Eventually, a divorce would happen, and it wouldn't go smoothly for Linda. But there was no rush. He didn't regret sending her the screenshot of the canceled Hawaii trip tickets. At the hospital, there wasn't much news. After several hours, a doctor came out with some information. They had to amputate Linda's left leg below the knee, and she had serious internal injuries. She lost her spleen and one kidney. Thanks to the airbag, her face was bruised but not disfigured. The doctors were unsure if there was any brain or nerve damage, and she was still in a coma. Soon after, Linda's parents, Bruce and Anna, arrived at the hospital. There wasn't much they could do except keep Jim company. They said they had nowhere else they needed to be more than here. Jim called his boss, Fred Thompson, the news director at the station. Fred said, "I was really mad for a bit and thought about firing you, but then I figured out your report. It was about Linda, wasn't it?" "It was, unfortunately. I would be moving out by now, but that will have to wait. Everything I reported was true. Warren Harding just told me that the driver of the car that crashed into Linda was pregnant, and her 3-year-old girl died too," Jim replied. "We have all that info now. This is becoming the local news story of the year. You can see how many angles there are to it. I'm just sorry you're stuck in the middle of it all. Your report went viral, and the network will use it in their coverage tomorrow. Expect a call from Good Morning America for an interview on Monday. Now that you, as the closest family member, have been told, Linda's name may be shared with the media soon. Do you want us to wait until it's officially announced? Or should we just go ahead since we know the situation?" "Let's go ahead," Jim replied. "Thanks, Jim. Take the whole week off. No one expects you here anyway, and we can catch up later. Don't worry about anything." Jim knew the next thing he needed to do was speak to his children. He didn't want to explain what had happened, but he knew he had to find the right words. At 14 and 12, they were old enough to understand why their mom was in the hospital, especially since it would be in the news soon. He wanted them to hear it from him before they faced any talk at school. After spending the night at the hospital, Jim stopped by home to change and then went to his parents' place for breakfast before church. He got there before Emma and Tommy woke up. He thought it was best to tell them right away so they could pray for their mom during the church service. After breakfast, when everyone was having their coffee, Jim gathered the kids and said their mom was in an accident and was currently in a coma at the hospital. He told them they would go to see her together after church and could spend some time with her, one by one. Tommy asked, "Were you in the car, Dad? You seem fine." Jim explained that it was someone else's car, and the man driving didn't survive the crash, but their mom was fortunate to still be alive. Emma wanted to know more about the man, so Jim briefly mentioned he was a football player and that he and their mom were friends. He answered most of the kids' questions as well as those from his parents, but he couldn't give them the answer to the most pressing question: why did this happen? He sensed that Emma was starting to have doubts about the situation. At church, many people, some familiar and some not, came up to ask about the accident and how he was coping. It was tough for Jim to talk, and even harder to hold back certain details. After the service, when Jim shook Pastor Ray's hand, Ray asked if he could meet in his office to talk. Jim's parents took the kids to the fellowship hall for snacks, allowing Jim to have a moment with the pastor. After asking about Linda's health and how the rest of the family was, the pastor got straight to the point and asked Jim to share what he felt comfortable with. Thinking the pastor had probably heard worse stories, Jim spoke honestly about what had happened and how he felt. When they finished, the pastor emphasized the importance of forgiving, even if it might take time. Jim couldn't help but think to himself that forgiveness felt very far away, but he kept that thought to himself. Emma and Tommy rode with Jim to the hospital while their parents followed them, joining Linda's parents in the waiting room. The hospital allowed family members to visit the ICU, but only one adult at a time for 5 minutes each. Jim took each of the children in to see their mom. On the way to the hospital, he tried to prepare them for what they might see, but they were still shocked when they entered the room. They couldn't see the part of her leg that was gone, but her head was covered with bandages, and her other leg and right arm were in casts. Linda was still in a coma. After visiting hours, they had some pie in the cafeteria, and then Tommy and Emma went back to their house with Jim's parents. Before bedtime, Jim made sure to call and check in on them. On Monday, Jim began a new routine at home. Each day, he got up early, warmed up, and ran until he felt winded. Then he walked home, took a shower, got dressed, had some breakfast, and headed to the hospital. The kids would stay with their grandparents for a few more days. At the hospital, Jim spent hours sitting, waiting, talking to doctors or nurses, visiting with Linda's parents, and grabbing a drink from the vending machine as he waited for any updates. After visiting hours, he would go to his parents' house for dinner, and to spend time with the kids. After a few days of this routine, the nurses allowed the whole family to visit Linda together, even if just for a few minutes. She looked peaceful, resting in her coma. On Tuesday, while he was sitting quietly in the hospital chapel, his phone buzzed, and he saw that it was Dave calling. Dave had tried to call several times since Linda's accident, but Jim had not answered. This time, he decided to confront Dave about everything. Stepping out into the hallway, he answered, "What do you want, Dave? Make it quick." Dave replied, "Jim, it's not what you think. Please listen to me. I'm really sorry about what happened to Linda and everything that led to it. If I had known then what I know now, I would have taken a wine bottle and smashed it on Lavaliere's head or hurt his knee. Dee lied to me and to all of us, Jim." Linda did not know anything beforehand, but Dee was trying to persuade Linda to stop being such a traditional mom and have some fun. Dee knew Lavaliere would be at Morrison's and that he liked to attract married women right in front of their husbands. Dee made the rest of us believe she had set up a funny prank. She told everyone that Lavaliere would come over to our table and ask Linda to dance. They would dance for a while and then come back to us. Lavaliere would take selfies with everyone and then leave. After that, the rest of us would do what we had planned in our hotel rooms. You were the only one not in on the prank. Dee knew Mark from her charity work, and it turns out she knew him very well. After a long argument, I finally told Dee that I would leave as soon as I could pack unless she told me the whole truth. I explained that her plans had hurt my best friend and put her best friend in the hospital. She finally admitted that she had been with Mark more than once. The worst part was that Mark told her he enjoyed doing this in public and wanted to humiliate the unsuspecting husband. He had done this before when he played for other teams, causing many divorces. The control he had over both the wife and her family excited him. When the girls planned their gathering at the end of February, Dee knew it would be the perfect time for Mark to take Linda away for a thrill and embarrass you at the same time. "I'm really sorry, man. I thought it was just some innocent fun with a couple of dances and selfies, but Dee had bad intentions all along. No disrespect to your wife, but I think Linda was too flattered and starstruck to realize what was happening. Even after Linda slipped out the back door, I hoped it was still a prank and that Linda would be waiting for us at the hotel. But on our way back to Madison, Dee confirmed that Linda was really leaving with Mark. I was furious, and when we got to our room, I confronted her. I yelled, but all she kept saying was, "But it's Mark Lavaliere," as if that made any difference. As I kept telling Dee how I felt, she had a small smile on her face, and I knew things were finished between us. We certainly had a memorable night, but not in the way I had hoped. Phil and Jane also had their problems, and Phil ended up leaving Jane at the Madison. I haven't been able to contact him since. I believe this whole situation was a way for Dee to feel powerful. She was Linda's best friend, but she was always jealous. Linda seemed to have it all: an ideal home, wonderful kids, and a great husband. If Dee's plan worked, Linda would no longer seem so perfect. "I'm definitely on your side, Jim. I was told this would be just a harmless joke, nothing more," I said. Jim asked, "What will you do next, Dave?" "As the song says, divorce. The faster the better. We don't have kids and we rent our place, so it should be straightforward. My parents moved to Tampa, and I might try to transfer to my company's office there. What about you, Jim?" I had a meeting Saturday morning with a family law expert. We prepared the divorce papers, and I planned to hand them to Linda the first day she was back at work. "You certainly moved quickly," I said. "I was really upset and wanted to go all out, but now I have time to think while Linda recovers. I've realized she doesn't seem to care about me. She would have left if someone had told her to. But I owe it to the kids to see this through until she's better. One thing worries me, though. Do you think Linda ever met Lavaliere before Friday night? It seems like they haven't met. I told Dee from the start that I wasn't comfortable with her idea of a joke, but she kept sulking, and I eventually gave in. I really wish I had trusted my instincts. I am truly sorry, Jim. I had no idea what they were really planning." "Neither did I. Thank you, Dave." Wednesday passed without any changes in Linda's condition. Jim's parents came by in the afternoon with Emma and Tommy, and the kids spent some time with Linda. They thought that by talking to her and expressing how much they missed her, she might wake up. Later, Jim took the kids home to gather more clothes and things they would need for the next few days. He decided to look for a babysitter so the kids could sleep in their own beds and be cared for until he returned from work. Jim chuckled as he realized that if Linda got better and came home, he would need to hire a sitter for her too. On Thursday, after dropping the kids off at school and returning to the hospital, Jim ran into Dee. She had been visiting the hospital daily, but Jim had managed to steer clear of her each time. Every visit, she expressed her sorrow for Linda's injury and for Jim, Emma, and Tommy. But she never apologized for the chaos she caused in Jim's marriage. This time, as Jim walked toward Linda's room, Dee approached him. Taking a deep breath, Jim quickly turned on the recorder on his phone. "So, Dee, the person who caused so much trouble, what happened on Friday? What role did you play? And what was really going on with Linda? Be honest. A reporter might find this story about a housewife and a celebrity quite fascinating. So tell me everything, Dee." Dee looked at the hospital floor and said, "It just happened, Jim. Mark chose Linda randomly and asked her to dance. After he charmed her, he invited her to leave with him. She felt unsure because you were there, so I told her it would be an opportunity she shouldn't miss. I even offered to help her out. It was a spur-of-the-moment decision." "That's hard to believe. You planned this, didn't you? I know more than you think. Let me ask you another way. Did you know Mark before Friday night?" After a pause, she replied quietly, "Yes, I did." "Did you have an affair with him?" "If you're talking about Mark, yes. I met him about 6 months ago during a girls' night out. I had a bit to drink and he asked me to dance. I told my partner I would be out late. We ended up spending the night together, and he was very skilled at what he did." "Please, I don't need more details about Linda's night." Mark is really persuasive. He enjoys casual relationships, but he's not the type to date too many people at once. A week later, he wanted to meet again, and I made an excuse for my partner to see him. It was exciting and intense, but not too rough. On our third date, things became more complicated. He invited a friend to join us. I was already feeling great from our earlier fun, but during a break, he brought out some drinks and snacks. By the time we were done, I felt happy and a little tired. The next week, Mark and I met up with 6 other friends from his team. I had a moment with each one, and then it turned into some group fun until morning. I can't remember what I told Dave. Then, for our 5th date, Mark took me to dinner, actually. We ordered room service in a fancy suite at the top of a hotel and enjoyed drinks and snacks. Before sunrise, he said this would be our last time together. It was nothing personal, just his way of doing things. I understood this going in, but I had begun to wish for more: the good times we shared, the enjoyable food, and everything else. I just hoped to convince him to stay in my life longer. I would have left Dave in a second if Mark wanted me to. Mark and I kept in touch, and we met at charity events from time to time. One day he asked me if I knew any friends who might be interested in meeting him. I immediately thought of Linda, even though we usually talked down about other women we knew who were unfaithful. I thought Linda might enjoy the chance to meet Mark, and I was sure he would like her too. Mark has a unique interest in being with women in surprising ways, especially when there are others around. You might be wondering about Linda. And no, she had never met Mark before Friday. Even though I had told her about my exciting times with an NFL player, she didn't know Mark was more than just a friend to me. Jane and Mary were on board with my plan from the start. They both wanted a chance to spend time with Mark. Jane especially wanted the chance to group up with him since she hadn't done anything like that since marrying Phil. She had been unfaithful to Phil several times, but he had no idea. I set up Friday with the goal of bringing Mark and Linda together. Linda didn't realize she was walking into a situation with Mark. I knew he would invite her over, and it would be up to her to decide to go or not. I was just giving her a once-in-a-lifetime chance. I believed she would enjoy being with Mark. What woman wouldn't? Linda is much more reserved than me, but I suggested to Mark that a little encouragement might help her feel more comfortable. He told me that once he had Linda in his car, he would make sure she felt relaxed for the ride to his place, so she wouldn't hesitate. But he didn't do anything while they were still at the restaurant. Linda had only had a little to drink, so she was completely sober. I got a text from Linda around 11 p.m. She sounded really excited after trying drugs for the first time, and her time with Mark was everything she hoped for. I was looking forward to sharing my feelings about my past with Linda over the next few months, but now that seems impossible. Jim couldn't help but ask, "So all this talk about it being just one night and Linda returning to normal was just nonsense, right?" "Well, if she decided not to see Mark again, it could have just been one night. That was her choice. But I knew if she liked the thrill as much as she liked being with someone new, she would want more." So this was Linda's chance to explore, wasn't it? A way for her to see what he had to offer while keeping the door open to come back to me? You can try to pretend it was just one night and that she would be the same afterward. But that's not true, is it? It was never true. That night wasn't some fairy tale where the prince takes her away to a beautiful place, was it? He pressed. She stayed quiet. "No, you helped her plan this. You helped Linda hurt me as much as possible, and maybe you thought it would help you get back in with him. I was just Plan B, loyal, dependable Jim who would take Linda back like nothing happened. But I see through you, and so does Dave. This isn't going to end well for anyone. It wasn't supposed to be like this. It was just a bit of fun." Jim asked, "What would happen if Dave found out?" He knew Dave must have some idea already, but wanted to hear Dee's thoughts. "Dave cares for me. He has what he wants. If he finds out, he'll just have to deal with it." "Good luck with that. I don't think Dave will be thrilled to hear about this when he finds out how many others have been involved," Jim said with a laugh. "You wouldn't tell him." Dee started. "Oh, I absolutely will. Even years from now, as I reflect on my life, I might think about forgiving Linda someday. But I will never forgive you for what you did to her, to me, and to Tommy and Emma. If it weren't for you, Linda wouldn't have left me that night and wouldn't be in a hospital now. Don't come back to the hospital. If there is a big change in Linda's condition, he'll make sure to let you know. But that's all I can do. He got what he deserved, he's gone. Are you happy with your little plan now, Dee? I won't say if Linda deserved this, but at least she's not at home showing off her life in my face every few minutes. I'm feeling really sad and frustrated right now because of everything that has happened, but I will manage. For Emma and Tommy, things will never be the same. They have lost their family, as they knew it since their mom and dad won't be the same anymore. Worst case for them, they may lose their mother completely. Thanks a lot, friend. Dee, I don't know how or when, but you will get what's coming to you. Count on it. And while you're at it, just go away." She looked down at the floor again, and Jim could hear her crying before she turned around and left. Before Jim left, he checked with the nurse and learned that Linda's test showed cocaine, ecstasy, cannabis, and some trace amounts of fentanyl in her system, but no drugs for harmful purposes. He had almost hoped they would find signs of something worse. It seemed like she had been having a wild time. At least he guessed the person involved could afford the good stuff. Friday was quiet. Jim couldn't believe a whole week had passed. There was no change in Linda's condition. Her parents spent most of the day at the hospital. With Emma and Tommy at home for the weekend, Jim tried to bring a bit of normal life back for them. After visiting Linda, he took the kids to their favorite fast food spot, Chick-fil-A. Monday felt just like the week before. No change overnight in Linda's condition, same wallpaper in her room, same beeping sounds, same pitying looks from the nurses, same bad coffee in the cafeteria, and no real news when the doctor came by. Jim went home to take care of a few chores and then headed back to the hospital. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday were more of the same. On Friday morning, Jim woke up early after a night of restless dreams. While having his coffee, he thought for a moment about what he and Linda were doing that same morning 2 weeks ago. They looked so happy, getting ready for their big night out. But today would be just like the past few days. Drop the kids off at school, eat a quick breakfast, drive to the hospital, wait for news that never comes, pick up the kids, take them to their grandparents' house, and then drive back to the hospital. But around 8:30 that night, Linda started to move her arms a little. For the next while, she would stir, try to turn over, but then give up and return to sleep. After some time, she began to move around again and then opened her eyes. "Mark, where are you, Mark?" Her first words hit Jim hard. "No, it's Jim. Did you forget? I'm your husband and the father of our 2 children, Emma and Tommy. We've been married for 14 years. There's no one named Mark here. They did bring in a big football player a while ago, but if you're looking for him, he's gone." "What? What happened to him?" He's no longer with us. What? That can't be. He was just... Linda, he is gone. No. And not that I care, but you are part of what happened. How can that be? You didn't shoot him, but you are involved in his death. It must seem like just a short time ago to you, but you have been in a coma for 2 weeks. Do you remember anything from that night? It's a little hazy. I remember putting on my blue dress and us driving to the hotel, meeting our friends, having dinner, and walking to the club. When Dave asked you to dance, do you remember what you said? All my dances were for Jim. Did you mean that? Of course I did. What do you mean? It wasn't long after that you didn't seem to mean it. I meant it, but... She trailed off and looked tired. Did you meet Mark before that night? Did Dee ever talk about him? Did she ever mention having a relationship with him? No, I didn't know much about him. Dee only said she had a brief thing with an NFL player. She called it the best experience of her life. Linda. Just then, a nurse who had been checking on Linda rushed in and quickly led Jim out. They would have to discuss this later. If the nurse had checked Jim carefully, she might have thought he needed help. The nurse gave Linda something to help her relax, so Jim decided to leave for the night. The next day, Jim called Emma and Tommy's schools to let them know Linda was awake and arranged for them to miss school to see their mom. Linda was glad to be with them, but she couldn't stop crying most of the time they were there. Jim couldn't tell if the tears were from happiness or worry. When he saw Linda getting tired, he said it was time to say goodbye. On the way back to the grandparents' house, Jim took the kids to the park to play for about an hour and a half. Later, he returned to see Linda during visiting hours in the early evening. She was sleeping quietly, and he didn't want to wake her. So he went down to the cafeteria to grab a coffee and a bowl of tapioca pudding. When he came back to Linda's room about half an hour later, she was awake. Oh, Jim, thanks for coming back. I wasn't sure if you would drive all the way back here again. I'm really sorry you have to keep running around like that, she said. That's what husbands do in sickness and in health, remember? That's one of the vows, just in case you forgot. You seem a little fuzzy about the forsaking all others part these days. I guess we're making some progress. You feel bad I have to drive so far. But are you ever going to feel bad about dancing with another man on our special night and leaving me worried and alone? Don't answer that, Linda, but think about it. You owe me an answer in the next few days. Let me share a conversation I had with Dee when she came to see you last Sunday. Jim played the recording from his phone. Oh, no, Linda whispered. One more time, Linda. This is your last chance. If you lie to me again, even a little, I will leave, and you will be on your own. With what I have here, you will not get custody of Emma and Tommy if we separate. So take a deep breath and think for a moment. Remember what I do for a living. I know more about everything that's happened to us in the past 2 weeks than you do. Imagine yourself on the stand, ready to tell the truth. Was this a setup? Like I told you, I never met Mark before Friday night. Dee mentioned she had an affair with an NFL player and how he made her feel. She never told me that player was Lavalier, you have to believe me. Did she talk about the drugs and other events? What, Drew? Linda paused to think. Yes, she did. It sounded exciting. So there was no plan before we went to Morrison's? No, not from my side. Everything just happened. I can't explain it all. When Mark came to our table and asked me to dance, I was going to say no, just like I did with Dave. Dee caught my eye, and I could see her lips move. She said, "This is the guy." I felt overwhelmed and unable to say no. Did you realize that saying yes to just one dance with him would ruin our special evening? I didn't think of it like that. At that moment, it was just a dance. If you were upset, I thought I could make it right with you later. Even as Dee helped me get away, I believed I could convince you that this was a unique chance for me. I knew it might upset you, but I thought you would get over it quickly, maybe even be happy for me, and we could return to the way we were. You were wrong. As for getting back to our relationship, there's no hope. You did one thing, and now it's over. But I'm not heartless. It'll help you get better so you can leave the hospital and go home. You can stay in the master bedroom, which is downstairs and has more space for you and your wheelchair or anything else you need. The attached bathroom is more convenient. I have been using that room, but it hasn't been easy for me. That bedroom holds a lot of memories that are no longer there. I will sleep in the guest room when you come home. I know you will need a lot of therapy, and I'll take you wherever you need to go. He'll hire any help you might require. I hope you can return to teaching someday. Thank you for not leaving me. I didn't promise that. We can talk about it again once you are well enough to take care of yourself. I'm not so cold-hearted that I would serve papers in the hospital, but I have thought about it. You can come back home when the hospital lets you out. I want us to stay married, but it will be a together but apart situation. It's best for the kids to grow up with both parents. Maybe we will reconcile. Maybe we won't. I will decide what's best. That's for the future. It just saddens me that neither of us will enjoy the life we dreamed about because of your poor choice. Can we talk more about this? I don't want you to react out of anger. I love you, Jim, and I don't want things to end. Do you remember when someone made a video of your special night? Not really. Well, they did and sent it to me. In my life, whether in school, in the army, or my career, no one has ever given me such a terrible surprise as you and your friend did. Can you picture seeing the person you love most being close with someone else? Close in ways you never let me try, marked by spots on your chest that I did not make, your face and the rings on your left hand covered in another man's mess? Welcome to my night to remember, or adventure, as you call it. Here, watch this and see if I am overreacting. Jim showed her about 4 minutes, including her looking at the camera and saying, "Hi, Jim. I am having a great time. Mark is so wonderful. I just want more and more. See you tomorrow." Followed by a scene where they were together, with sounds of joy and cries of harder, deeper. It is so good. You have got to love this view of you using drugs. My God, white mess all over your mouth and chest and white powder on your nose. Think I am going to forget this image? Think this is just going to be a small problem? I really should not let you anywhere near our children ever again. You have never changed your look for me, even when I asked you to, and you never let me try certain things, but you did both for him. Are you starting to get an idea of how I felt? How I still feel? And what about the taxi I set up? Do you remember that, or were you too out of it? Yes, I do remember. I was getting ready to go, but Mark woke up and wanted me again and offered more drugs, so I went back to bed with him. I must have fallen asleep after he made you feel good again? She looked down but could not answer the question. You should have taken the taxi. We would still be having this talk right now, but we would be talking in our kitchen instead of this hospital room. Let us move ahead to Saturday afternoon. Do you remember anything? I remember getting into Mark's fancy car. It is the nicest car I have ever been in. He was going to drive me home. It was already 4:30, so he was driving pretty fast. I leaned over to help him, and the next thing I woke up here. What happened, and what happened to Mark? You sure care a lot about that man. She looked down again in shame. Jim smiled for the first time in the talk. The man did not make it. He did not see the red light. I guess he was not paying attention. He went through the light at high speed and hit a dark green car driven by Marge Walker. Mrs. Walker's 3-year-old daughter, Brittany, was in her car seat. Oh, did I tell you Mrs. Walker was 7 months along with their second child, a boy. There was a fire after the crash. They could not get out and did not survive. They died in the fire. You caused it, and it's awful. Oh, no. They said he passed away quickly. I hope it took a moment for him to understand what was happening. You were stuck in the car for over an hour before help could reach you. Your leg was badly hurt. They couldn't save it. Deputy Chief Harding came to tell me the news in person. I found out while I was working, and it was all breaking live. Harding said that if investigators find you made it hard for him to drive well, it could lead to serious charges. Even if I decide to end our marriage, I might lose everything because you were with someone else while driving so fast. I can't believe I married you. From teacher of the year to having a serious addiction, now people will see you as a killer all in less than a day. It sounds like something out of a movie. I always thought about writing a story. Maybe this is my moment. Linda didn't want to talk anymore. She just cried. She felt so confident in the morning, but now she couldn't face Jim. Where are we, Linda? We can't change what happened, and we can't bring back your leg or the happy memories we should have had. You can't take back what you did. I've had enough of this hospital for today. I've had enough of you too, but I will stay loyal. I will visit you every day while you are here. You'll make sure you get good care. If I have to fight with the doctors or insurance, I will. I want to help you recover. You know, I thought we had an agreement that night for you to take a cab home. That would have saved your marriage and 4 lives. Do you get that? 4 lives lost because of your choices. You could have kept the life you wanted. Instead, you ignored that, and now, here we are. I tried. The only thing I could have done differently would have been to go to the other guy's house and confront him, but that would have led to more trouble. I'm really sorry, Jim. Are you sorry for what you did or just sorry for how things ended up? I'm sorry, so sorry. I'm sorry you're hurting, Jim said gently. But you need to take responsibility for what happened last Friday and Saturday. You have to truly feel sorry for your actions and apologize to me and to our children. Eventually, you will also need to say you're sorry to Nick Walker. Who is Nick Walker? Linda asked, confused. The man you and your friend hurt. You made him a widower on Saturday. Must have been fun to ride in that fancy car, huh? Linda started to cry but couldn't respond. Jim raised his voice a bit. That was the nicest car you've ever been in, right? You express regret for hurting my feelings, but you can't say you're sorry for what happened that night. Can you at least apologize to Nick Walker? You changed his life in a way that's even worse than what you did to mine. Oh my God, no, she whispered. Yes, you and Dee had a plan, but sometimes the best laid plans don't work out. You were being used, not for your own fun, but to satisfy her needs. Maybe by the fourth date, you'd be so caught up that you'd lose control completely. That's where this was headed. You didn't see the whole story, but they did. I tried to help you, he continued. I wanted to talk things out and save our family. But while I was trying to find a way to mend things, you chose to have more fun and chase after the wrong things. Now here we are. I can't keep discussing this. I'm exhausted. I need to go home. I will be back tomorrow. You know I always keep my word. Before leaving, Jim added, I did love you once, Linda. Remember that. But I don't think love is enough this time. He turned away but heard a quiet, I love you, Jim, as he walked out. In the hallway, he asked the nurse to check on Linda, as she seemed upset, and might need something to help her sleep, something better than dwelling on what cannot be changed. As he got into his car, the radio played an old love song. It must have been love, but it's over now. Jim felt overwhelmed. Between the conversation with Linda and the sad song, it felt like the walls were closing in on him. He recalled his darkest thoughts from that night and struggled to focus as he drove away. The accident feels strange for me to think about. If it hadn't happened and she had come home on Saturday as planned, still happy from her experience, I would have left her right away. Now it's not so simple. That Friday night and into Saturday morning, I was really angry with her. The crash took away most of that anger. Now I feel sorry for her and imagine what it would be like to be in her situation. What if I was in a hospital bed with one leg gone and my life had suddenly changed, but she has never thought about how I would feel when she left me? Who treats someone they care about like that? Still, I won't leave her. That's not who I am. Will I ever love her like I used to? Probably not. Why do I even care anymore? The next day, Jim drove to his parents' house. They would have breakfast together, and then he would take Tommy and Emma to see their mom at the hospital. After they finished eating, Jim's dad said he wanted to show him something in the garage. Jim knew that meant he wanted to talk. I can't imagine how you're feeling, but if I were you, it would be a tough choice. It's not just about you two. There are 4 of you. You have almost 15 years of marriage to think about against one tough night. Is that night really worse than all those years? Or are those years and your 2 wonderful kids more important than those few hours of pain? She can deny a lot, but she cannot deny that she changed everything for you. As always, you have it all figured out, Dad. I've made my choice. He'll take her home and help her heal, help her get back to some kind of normal life, maybe back to teaching. I think it will take at least a year, maybe longer, and then I can think about my own future. Plus, in a year, the kids will be closer to going to college. I've had enough changes lately. No need for more right now. When Jim returned to the hospital with Tommy and Emma, Linda was sleeping but woke up as soon as she saw the kids. She was thrilled to see them, and they were also happy to be with their mom. They had a lot they wanted to share, but at that moment, they were just glad to have their mother back. Jim was relieved to see his kids so joyful. Linda asked about their canceled vacation to Hawaii and if they could still take that trip someday. Jim's first thought was to say he had already rescheduled it for when pigs fly, but he quickly relaxed. Not this summer, but when you are better, we can talk about it. Jim thought, it must have taken a lot of courage for her to talk about this. She looks tired. As everyone said their goodbyes, Jim leaned over to Linda and said, I promise I will be back tomorrow, and I keep my promises. A little tear rolled down her cheek. The next few days were very routine. Jim spent his days and nights lost in thought, swinging between hope and worry about the future. On Saturday, Emma and Tommy wanted to spend as much time with their mother as possible. They picked some flowers from Linda's garden and made her a big handmade card to wish her well. Linda cried when they gave it to her. It was one of those little days that stick in your memory forever. When Jim saw Linda looking tired again, they said their goodbyes. Jim hugged Linda, and she gave him a weak hug in return. See you tomorrow, sweetheart. It was the first time he had used a term of affection with her since this all began. On Sunday after church, Jim, the kids, and Linda's parents spent most of the day and early evening at the hospital. Linda spent part of the time visiting but rested a lot of the day. Monday and Tuesday were much the same. Early Wednesday morning, Jim's phone rang. It's never good news when the phone rings late at night. Mr. Carlson, this is Nancy Osborne, a nurse at the hospital. I'm sorry to call you at this hour, but your wife's condition is getting worse. How bad is it? She may only have a few hours left. I'll be there as soon as I can. After hanging up, Jim thought, what more can I face? He felt relieved that the kids had stayed with him that night and quickly woke them up, knowing they would need their chance to say goodbye. Everyone dressed quickly. While the kids brushed their teeth, Jim called Linda's parents and then his own. Without breaking any rules, he got everyone to the hospital in record time. They rushed to the nurse's station to find Nurse Osborne. She told them that Linda had a serious heart issue. The doctors revived her, but her body was struggling. Jim, Emma, and Tommy held Linda's hands as her parents joined them. The nurses allowed more family to come in. They understood that support was what mattered most now. Jim's parents arrived, kissed Linda, and then went to the waiting area. For the next few hours, they talked to Linda, prayed for her, and offered their love and support. All of Jim's anger faded away, replaced by sadness, questions, and worries about what could have been. The children and both sets of parents had cried until they could cry no more by the time Linda's condition worsened and she passed away. The nurse turned off the monitors, and the beeping sound stopped for good. How can life change from happiness to deep sorrow so quickly? For Jim, it happened in just over 2 weeks. My sweet Linda, almost 15 years of marriage and 17 years together, 17 wonderful years, then one terrible night followed by 2 weeks of pain. How does that make sense? The family sat with her to say their goodbyes, some spoken and some in silence. Emma and Tommy cried, already missing their mommy. Emma tried to stay strong for her younger brother the entire time. After a while, Jim got up. He kissed Linda for the last time and told her he loved her, forgave her, and felt sorry for what had happened. He whispered, "Good night, sweetie," just like he had every night since they had been together, until that Friday night. Before leaving the hospital for the last time, Jim made a few calls. He reached out to some friends of theirs, telling them he would update them on plans later, as it was too early to make decisions. He checked in with his boss, letting him know about Linda's passing and promising to stay in touch about work schedules. He also called Linda's school principal, who said they would hold a memorial in a few weeks. There was one more call to make to Dee. She answered after a few rings. "Dee, Linda is gone. Think about what you did for the rest of your life." Before she could respond, he hung up. She called back many times, but Jim let them all go to voicemail. By this time, it was almost 10 a.m., and everyone was worn out but not ready to go back to bed, so they decided to have breakfast together, Jim, Emma, Tommy, and both sets of parents. Surprisingly, the atmosphere was not heavy. Soon they were sharing stories about happy times, funny moments, and what Linda meant to each of them. When it was time to leave, Jim asked Linda's parents if they would accompany him to the funeral home the next day. He and Linda had never discussed their final wishes, not expecting this day to come for a long time. In the end, they agreed on cremation. Jim did not want her to be buried in the state she left this world. Better to free her from her pain. That afternoon, Jim and the kids returned to a quiet, empty house, filled with dozens of messages on the phone waiting to be returned. The kids went to take a nap, and Jim sank into his favorite chair. He felt relieved that he hadn't let his anger take over the house the night he returned from Madison. There was sadness, but also comfort in the memories Linda had filled the home with over the years. Jim's parents came to visit, and they talked long into the night. He enjoyed their company, but when they left, he felt a deep loneliness. Jim thought to himself, "It's strange. If Linda were still here and the accident hadn't happened, I would have felt angry with her. We might be facing a messy divorce. Even if there were a way to fix things, I would worry that she might think of someone else and not me. I'd always wonder if her new ideas came from a magazine or someone else. If she were here with someone else, I would be furious inside, trying to keep it together. It's not a good way to live, but I guess Linda saved me from that." The next few weeks were busy. They had a small gathering at home for family and close friends. Dave, the only friend from that night at Morrison's, was invited. Linda loved her little garden in the backyard, so Jim, Emma, and Tommy decided to place her ashes there. It was a spot she truly enjoyed. Instead of a headstone, they put up 2 small bells that would ring softly in the breeze. Linda's school held a memorial service the last day before spring break. Hundreds of parents, teachers, former students, and others came to honor her. Once all of that was done, the house felt very quiet. There was no public ceremony for Marc Lavaliere. He used to think if he died young, the whole city would mourn him. His jersey would be retired, and there would be a statue at the stadium. But that didn't happen. The tragic crash that took the lives of an innocent mother and her child erased Lavaliere's name from the history of the NFL's Sharks. Jim returned to work, throwing himself into it. He put in extra hours on several stories alongside his regular newscasts, but the house felt lonely. The anger he once felt about Linda turned into deep sadness. The kids helped him through it. He would admit they saved him. As they got older, they were thankful their dad was always there for their games, school plays, camping trips, and occasional weekend adventures. Because Jim often got home late during the week, he hired a nanny and tutor for Emma and Tom. Heidi was young, just 20 years old, with blonde hair and a warm smile. She was born in Germany and moved to the USA when she was 2. With her cheerful nature and a slight German accent, the kids quickly grew to love her. Jim appreciated her too, but he convinced himself it was just a friendly feeling. Over time, she became a big part of their family. Despite her presence, Jim still felt lonely in the house. He couldn't stay angry at Linda, but he had strong feelings against the Sharks team, especially the players who had kept him from helping Linda that night. He thought the team's attitude played a role in what had happened. Once Jim felt more like himself, he focused on his future plans. While he couldn't confront the player directly, he could take action against his estate and hold the team accountable. Jim had his lawyer, Dan, file lawsuits on behalf of himself and Nick Walker against the Lavaliere estate following the accident. He covered all the expenses for the Walker family, choosing not to sue Linda's estate. The legal process was slow and complicated, but eventually, the trustee for Lavaliere agreed to settle with both families for significant amounts. Each of the friends involved had to pay a large sum to resolve the situation. The owners of the Sharks initially resisted, but public opinion shifted against them, leading to a settlement without further legal battles. Reports on Lavaliere's actions helped influence the team owners. Jim began receiving calls from other husbands who had faced similar issues due to Lavaliere, reaching out from cities like Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Charlotte. Many of these couples had divorced after Lavaliere involvement, and those who tried to save their marriages usually could not. Sadly, some husbands and wives struggled deeply, resulting in tragic outcomes that were kept quiet by the teams and media. Dan and the other lawyers worked hard to secure fair settlements for everyone involved. Despite this, Jim often said he would give up all the money for a chance to change the past. All the husbands who were at Morrison's on February 29th eventually divorced their wives. Dee and Dave were the first to part ways, but soon the other men hired private investigators, and they discovered their wives were unfaithful. A year later, Dee passed away from an overdose, along with her boyfriend, a college basketball player. They used some dangerous drugs one night at a local hotel. Dave did not go to her funeral. He had moved to the Tampa office for his job and met a wonderful woman who wanted to start a family and did not like pro football. The last time Dave spoke with Jim on the phone, he jokingly said, "Dee's headstone should say, 'What's the big deal? It was only one night.'" Emma was the first to suggest the family move away. "All our friends have left because their parents got divorced, and many kids and adults here act strangely towards us because of Mom. The boys on our football team tease me all the time. They think just because Mom was with one of them, I will be too. I'm scared of what you might do if you heard some of the things they call me." One Saturday, Jim was at the mall looking for a birthday present for Emma. Shopping was something Linda usually handled, so Jim was struggling to think of what Emma might like when he heard a familiar voice. "Hey, Mr. Jim!" It was Heidi, the only person who ever called him Mr. Jim, and she was with another woman who looked a bit older but was just as beautiful and blonde. "Heidi, I was just thinking I could use your help finding a gift for Emma, and here you are. I won't take too much of your time since I see you are with your friend." "Mr. Jim, I'm happy to help any time, especially for Emma. This is actually my mom. Mom, this is Mr. Jim, or Jim Carlson, as I should say. Mr. Jim, I'd like you to meet my other hero in life, my mom, Annalise Brockmüller. She watches you every night on the news." "Nice to meet you, Annalise. Oh, can I call you Annalise?" "Of course, as long as I can call you Jim." Heidi's mom thought to herself, "What I'd really like to call him is Sweetheart. Now I understand why Heidi loves working at the Carlson home. This man is very charming. Do you ladies have time for coffee? There's a Starbucks right here in the mall." An hour and a half later, Jim learned that Annalise was 39 and also widowed. Her late husband, Kurt, was 15 years older and had died in a plane accident just 4 years after they got married, so Annalise had taken on the role of a single parent. She worked as the HR manager at a regional office for the Aldi stores, so her German language skills were useful. Jim's German was not perfect, but he remembered some from when he lived near Heidelberg, which was also Annalise's hometown. It turned out that Annalise's father had retired from being the master brewer at the old Heidelberg Schlossquell brewery. They spent the next hour sharing memories about Heidelberg. As Jim talked with Annalise, he realized something interesting. When he first met Linda, it was like love at first sight. They connected quickly, but it took time for their feelings to grow into love. While they dated, Jim sometimes felt like he loved her more than she loved him. He wondered if she thought she had settled for him. After she left him for someone else, those worries about their relationship were finally answered. With Annalise, things felt different. Jim could tell from the way she looked at him and leaned in close that she was interested. He hoped he was seeing the signs right because he was falling for her. He decided to ask her out for dinner the next night, and she happily replied, "I would love to." He asked where she wanted to go, and she suggested Matters, an old German restaurant downtown that they both liked for its cozy atmosphere. Annalise had a glass of Riesling wine, and even though Jim preferred IPAs, he ordered a Schlitz in honor of his dad's time at the brewery. Their first date turned into a second, and then a third. Each date ended with a kiss that became more affectionate. On the fourth date, as Jim walked Annalise to her door, she invited him in for coffee, saying she had something she wanted to show him. Jim settled on the living room couch while he waited for Annalise to return. She came back wearing the same coat, but then took it off to reveal a stylish outfit. "This is what I wanted to show you," she said. For a moment, Jim was at a loss for words. He quickly gathered his thoughts and asked, "Which door is your bedroom?" That night would be one Jim remembered fondly. It was the summer after he received news about his settlements 15 months after the events at Morrison's. Jim's newscast was #1 in its time slot, and he had just won a local Emmy for a multi-part investigative series about how sports teams often ignored the bad behavior of athletes. With the settlements, Jim didn't need to work, but he loved broadcasting, so he continued. Like the kids, he was ready to move forward. His job, the children, and Annalise kept him busy and helped him avoid thinking about Linda. He used to enjoy coming home every evening, but every room held memories of Linda. Most of the memories were good. Carrying Linda over the threshold, turning a small bedroom into a nursery, buying seeds together from a catalog, and planting their garden. There were 4th of July picnics and decorating the Christmas tree, the one time a year that Linda let Jim play his Mannheim Steamroller CDs. But even good memories could bring sadness, and Jim was tired of feeling sad. Jim and Annalise talked about moving in together, but Jim had an even bigger idea. A few weeks before summer vacation, he told Emma and Tim that he needed their help with an important task. They both groaned, tried to make excuses, and complained. "This will be fun! We have all talked about moving out of this house. It has good memories but sad ones too, so maybe it is time for a change. Your job is to come up with a list of places where you'd like to live, at least 5 from each of you, but feel free to add more. And give me reasons for each one. It could be the beach or the mountains, but remember, if we choose Orlando, we can't visit Disney World every week. It could be a city or the countryside anywhere. I don't need to work anymore unless I want to, so finding a job isn't a big deal unless you want to think about your plans after college. Any reason is fine. Just one rule: it has to be at least 250 miles from here. You have 2 weeks to complete this. Then we will sit down, share our lists, and plan a road trip." 2 weeks later, they gathered to review their lists. Everyone included places in both Florida and California. Tim wanted to visit Nashville since he liked country music. Emma suggested New York City, not to live, but for a fun getaway. Jim had some interesting picks like Taos, New Mexico, Sandpoint, Idaho, and Mendocino, California. Together, they created a list they all agreed on. The kids were unaware that Heidi and Annalise also had some input. Jim started planning flights, hotels, rental cars, and train tickets. Emma and Tim had never experienced a long-distance overnight train ride before, so Jim included the train for some of the more scenic parts of the journey. First, they flew to Los Angeles. Jim didn't want to move back to the area where he grew up, but he did want to show the kids his hometown. They visited all the attractions except for Universal Studios. Jim planned a special trip with a friend to explore the Paramount lot. They visited USC, enjoyed a Dodger game together, drove past Jim's childhood home in the San Fernando Valley, and stopped by In-N-Out Burger almost every day. Jim took the kids to some of his favorite spots like Philippe's near Union Station, Tommy's on Rampart, and an original 50s Bob's Big Boy in Toluca Lake. They had fun and soaked up some sun at Newport Beach and even made a one-day trip to San Diego. After making the most of their time in LA, they boarded Amtrak's Coast Starlight train to travel up the California coast, seeing beautiful sights along the way. They got off in Salinas, rented a car, and spent a couple of days in Monterey before driving up to San Francisco. On their first day, they planned to visit Chinatown, but Jim said, "First, we need to quickly go to the airport to pick up something special." An hour later, Emma asked, "Why are we waiting at Delta Airlines, Dad?" Jim replied, "You'll see soon." At that moment, they spotted Heidi and Annalise walking into the baggage claim area, and Tommy and Emma cheered. Annalise said, "We decided to join you and make sure you all behave." They enjoyed riding the cable cars, visiting Ghirardelli Square, Fisherman's Wharf, and even took a boat ride in the bay. But Jim had more of California to show his new family, so they continued north. Jim's grandfather had worked on a small railroad that still operated for tourists. The kids had never seen a steam engine in action, and they got to ride behind one through the tall redwoods. In the following days, they drove along the coast, stopping to see the famous tree you can drive through, the Trees of Mystery, the Sea Lion Caves, and many redwood gift shops along US 101. As they traveled, the 5 of them grew closer and began to feel like a real family. Seattle was one of Jim's favorite places. He and Linda had visited often, but it didn't feel as inviting as it once had. They went up the Space Needle, explored local museums, enjoyed plenty of salmon, and Jim had a chance to sip some rainier beer. They traveled across the western states, visiting Idaho, then making their way down to Phoenix, Scottsdale, Tucson, Albuquerque, San Antonio, and then to Fort Worth and Dallas. Their next flight took them to Nashville, where they also visited Lexington, Kentucky. Finally, they headed to Florida. In Orlando, they visited all the Disney parks and took a side trip to Cape Canaveral before exploring the west coast of Florida. Jim always thought Naples might be a lovely place to visit. At dinner, watching the sunset at the Marco Island Resort, Jim shared with everyone, "I hope you all know that Heidi and Annalise will help decide where we end up, to make sure they always have equal say." Jim took a small box from his coat pocket and knelt down in front of Annalise. "Will you honor me by becoming my wife?" Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. I love you, my dear, she replied excitedly. There were hugs and smiles all around. For the first time in over 2 years, Jim felt pure happiness and looked forward to starting a new chapter in his life. They took a trip to Washington, D.C. to explore all the famous sites. One morning, Jim went out on his own to have breakfast and catch up with an old friend who worked at Fox News. His friend arranged a special tour of the White House for everyone. They traveled to Philadelphia by train, where the kids were amazed by the many attractions. While everyone rushed about, Jim and Annalise took their time walking up the rocky steps at the art museum. Jim said to Annalise, "I've been thinking, even though we have friends in Milwaukee, at least you do if you like the idea. I would love to get married where we decide to settle down. It feels like a fresh start." Annalise pulled him close and gave him a warm kiss. "Does that answer your question?" As they walked down the steps, Jim held hands with Emma. She looked up at him and said, "This has been an amazing vacation, Dad. I can't choose my favorite place." "Tommy and I decided that anywhere you want to live would be fine with us, but I keep thinking how excited I am to tell Mom about all this." Jim thought to himself, "I feel the same, especially about places your mother and I visited before. She will always be with us in spirit." But then Emma snapped him back to reality. "I'm so happy Annalise will be living with us. Do you think it will be okay to call her Mom?" That was the best question Jim had heard in a long time. There would be no wicked stepmother tales in this family. "You should ask her, but I believe she will be delighted," he said with a smile. After a few days exploring New York, it was time to fly back to Milwaukee. They had a family meeting to narrow down their list of cities. Jim didn't need to work but wanted to spend as much time as possible with his family, especially his soon-to-be wife. Still, broadcasting was in his blood, so he hoped to find something to keep him engaged in the field. In less than a week, Jim received a call from his friend at Fox with a great opportunity. He was offered a part-time job as the political editor for the Fox affiliate in Phoenix. He would host a 1-hour interview and discussion show on Sundays. Additionally, he would have a chance to showcase his skills as an expert on Fox News, and if all went well, he could join their group of contributors. Moving from the number 37 local TV market to number 8 also meant much more visibility. Jim traveled to Phoenix and then to Washington, D.C. to finalize the details for both Fox jobs. A few weeks later, he and Annalise returned to Phoenix to look for a house. They found a spacious 3,500-square-foot Pueblo-style home with plenty of land on the outskirts of Scottsdale. Built recently and move-in ready, they could close in just 10 days since Jim had the funds. This timing allowed them to settle in before the school year began. Heidi accompanied them and managed to find a job in her field as well as a comfortable apartment not far from their new house. On the flight back to Milwaukee, Jim thought about sorting through 15 years of memories and deciding what to keep. Once home, they began packing, giving away things and throwing away what they didn't need. Jim gave many photos of Linda to her parents, along with some of her cherished belongings. Emma and Tom kept a selection of items that reminded them of their mom, and Jim kept a box of photos and a few small keepsakes. Aside from a couple of antique pieces he liked, Jim donated the furniture and household items, ready to start fresh in a new place. This represented 15 years of their life. The house had felt sad for a long time, and Jim was looking forward to a new chapter in Arizona with Annalise. He reflected on the last time he saw the house empty, back when he and Linda first moved in. Now, it was time to leave and begin again. They all watched as the movers loaded their belongings into the van. Many neighbors stopped by to say goodbye and wish them well, but none of their friends from earlier in the year came to see them off. The realtor visited to place a "sold" sign on the front yard, and Jim handed over the last set of keys and the garage remotes. As the sun set, the family gathered around Linda's flower garden, where her ashes were placed, to say farewell one last time. After the movers left, it was too late to hit the road, so Jim planned to spend the night at a nearby Best Western and leave early in the morning. Their final dinner in town was at Five Guys, as Jim wondered if he would ever return to Wendy's again. The next morning, everyone got into Jim's SUV. As they drove west and crossed the city line, they all cheered together, "Milwaukee is not the best!"